war, territory, alliances, destruction. Welcome to Place. April 1st, 2022 started the second coming of Reddit's greatest experiment, r/place. Within minutes, communities already had their flags and art ready to go. Osu, Star Wars, the Blue Corner, and this furry with a gun were there almost immediately. These were the early adopters that received the announcement that Place was coming back, and they were already prepared when the event went live. The top of the map quickly became full of flags spanning several countries from Sweden to Denmark. The Trans would quickly relocate the British and would begin war with the US. Turkey would get attacked by XQC as Canada tried its best. Ukraine proved to be quite the staple, spanning the entire map. Germany as well would claim quite a large amount of land. But Ukraine would be the first major point of contention, with a lot of people defending it for political reasons. But regardless of the reason for the flag, many believed that it was just taking up way too much space with bland colors. It needed to go. But before we could talk about any of that, I need to give a little context as to just what the heck is going on here. This is r/place. Now, I'm not much of an epic Redditor, but as someone who loves the internet, this is one of the coolest things that exists online. The premise is very simple. We are given a canvas, a blank wall of pixels, and as users, we are granted the privilege of placing a singular pixel every 5 minutes. And this doesn't sound like much, but when communities band together, they can form something great. Art, memes, and Among Us, apparently, among other things. It is a constant battle for control, but it's such a great concept because it spawns these really fun and creative crossovers, just like this chessboard. But one of the coolest things is seeing different entities fight for control and make compromises. Now, this is the second time that we've gotten an r/place experiment, with the first happening 5 years ago in 2017. Yet 2017 was 5 years ago. Let that sink in. And this collaborative cohesion was really visible in Place 2017. One of the biggest forces and one of the first things that appeared was the Rainbow Road, which spanned the entire map with random offshoots all around. And a lot of really cool art developed around this Rainbow Road. Some even incorporated the road itself into their design, just like how Rocket League and Star vs. the Forces of Evil have this rainbow going through them. It's just like the coolest little collaboration. The original concept for r/place was the brainchild of Josh Wardle, a name that might sound a little bit familiar because he was the same man who made your Twitter feed's favorite game, Wordle. Now, in 2017, this was a big deal. It was a great April Fool's idea, but 5 years later, Reddit is much bigger, and so is Twitch, the latter of which will become very important later on. The original Place was a time capsule of Reddit and the internet as a whole for that moment. And the same can be said about Place 2022. It is a reflection of the state of the internet. And it's clear to see how things have changed in those 5 years. With more communities and greater numbers, the structure of Place would be much less freeform and a lot more controlled. Most art pieces took to a box, with fewer and fewer pieces existing outside of square borders. Now, obviously not all of them. I mean, look at Osu, but you see what I mean. And the art's appearance isn't the only thing that's different. So is its creation. Bots and scripts made the creation of so many of these art pieces instant. And streamers like XQC led armies with numbers in the hundreds of thousands. And aside from the streamers, the subreddit's admins were caught cheating, ignoring the cooldown, and censoring art. Censoring this experiment that's supposed to be an accurate representation of the internet. And we'll address that whole can of worms in a little bit. But with the introductions out of the way, let's talk about the story of r/place. On day one, we were giving a 1000 by 1000 pixel canvas, same as 2017. But with the website so much bigger than it was before, things were very cramped very quickly. There was a lot of turf war, which was mostly won by flags and large communities. And while we had the blue corner from the original Place, we also had this rainbow corner, which was instantly turned into an Among Us zone. At the top left, we had a small void, which would go on to house probably my favorite battle of the entirety of r/place, that being Genshin Impact versus Shrek. First Genshin, then Gen Shit, then Gay Shit, then Gen Shrek, then Sex Shrek, back to Gay Shrek, before being eaten whole. And I love how Shrek himself made a cameo before like dying and turning into the E. Great touch. There was a game of tic-tac-toe that turned into a Rubik's Cube. The Among Us zone got a Germo, which turned into a demon and then got a JoJo hat. Spamton's nose did a fun little swirl, and all these college logos here ended up spelling out porn. Business was booming. But as far as major conflicts went, the biggest was the downsizing of Ukraine. A void sprung from Albania with a soft border materializing. Then the Rainbow Road struck, giving many smaller communities their chance to go, and almost instantly, the right half of the flag was gone, overtaken. It appears that Rainbow Road may have teamed up with the Bronies, who had been evicted by Ukraine right from the beginning, and then later evicted by Mizkif. They wanted their spot on the map, and attacking Ukraine allowed them to put their prized pony on the board, only for it to be destroyed and then replaced by Asmongold with Guts from Berserk, which is much more visually appealing in my opinion. But speaking of Mizkif, let's talk about the streamer wars. Now, streamers were all over the place. It was 4 days of pure free content, so why wouldn't they be? But the main players, at least of day one, were Miz and XQC. Matthew Mizkif had his targets set on the Bronies, destroying them in favor of a Peepo, a much needed improvement. But as Miz was improving the area with a wide hardo next door, the Juicer attacked. The Peepo was replaced with an XQCL, forcing Miz to relocate to X's original home base, where he would remain for the rest of Place's duration. But this was not the final play for the Juicer. In fact, it was only the beginning. Immediately, X went after Turkey because Hassan wouldn't help him with the XQCL. After some negotiations, they made peace and gifted Elden Ring with a pot friend. X would then go on to defend Quebec, which ironically was bigger than Canada, and he would help to extend their flag even further. But when he went offline, things changed. Now, the thing with streamers on r/place was when they were live, they had all the power. They had armies at their disposal, but the second they end stream, that power is gone. And they can no longer defend their territory with their hundreds, thousands strong army. And this reality forced streamers into one of two different directions. Either you make an art piece that represents more than just your community, or you go demon mode. Mizkif would go on to create the Dong, which stood the test of time, and later pushed for the Regful tribute, which was a beautiful piece of art that went relatively untouched. Ludwig made this Kirby better and added art from his favorite anime. Asmongold made the LOL. Rubber Ross made a Newgrounds logo, and many other streamers did similar things, contributing to other communities because if the art is good, then people aren't going to touch it. XQC chose to go demon mode, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but first, the motive behind the madness. You see, after X logged off, the progress that he made with Quebec was lost, and some. A storm was brewing, and Quebec would be at the center of it. The Void pushed through Turkey, downsizing it and allowing for the expansion of India. Meanwhile, America decided to do some colonizing after being attacked several times, only to be pushed back by numerous different communities. This caused the trans flag to spread through Quebec, with Turkey taking the remainder. The US and Turkey proved resilient, but Quebec was forced to relocate. On day 2, the eastern expansion began. The map doubled in size, with a new plane as big as the first appearing to the right. And with this expansion came an increased color palette. Quebec took the opportunity to colonize the blue corner and convert it into its flag, as it was no longer in the corner, so free real estate. Enraged, the Juicer targeted the Turkish flag and began the push of the Purple Void.
Where were you? Where were you when they took over Quebec? And Quebec died to a crisp. Where you did it when they massacred Quebec that we spent hours fixing and make it cool. Consume this. Use the route here, the purple one, and push the highway. Attack the outlines. Attack the borders. Attack things. Guys, attack things that make it look recognizable. If you attack recognizable features first, it is hard for them to rebuild. They don't know where it starts and where it ends. Attack things that are visual first, and then roll the fucking fillers.
He was a strategist, leading his army, pushing the route of the Void through several flags and communities into Hololive. After discovering the strength of the Weebs, he retreated, going around Osu and building a Twitch logo. But the Twitch logo soon came under attack by Osu and Turkey, who was not too pleased to have the Void originate from their flag. In retaliation, the Juicer attacked Osu, which he then thought was a missed input, pushing him back to Turkey. But X still wanted revenge with Osu. After returning to Turkey, XQC decided to attack the creator of Osu by replacing it with his Twitch logo, Winston from Overwatch. This forced XQC into a call with Osu.
Anything that happens around the logo, you guys start crying like a bunch of bitches. When did that happen? Before or after you guys started getting into this?
Your numbers completely outweigh ours. The only difference is that we're just batshit crazy. We're willing to stay here until 5 in the morning fighting this war. And if you're not going to back down, we are going to stay here until the middle of the night.
There's nothing more fragile than one, Osu users, and weebs. And you guys are just fragile, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, we're fragile as fuck, but for some reason you still can't take us out. What's up with that?
Okay, guys, regroup. Everybody on pink, everybody on Osu, ready? Burn it. You left the call. You left the call.
Oh God.
As it turns out, that wasn't actually Osu, but a sub-faction of Osu. And after talking with the real Osu representatives, the monkey moved to the blue corner. And while it materialized in record time, as he switched his focus from place, it was slowly destroyed. But he would return later that night, and the purple pipe would come with him. The root would wreak havoc once again, starting above the Mogus and blasting through the bronies to the top of the map. And at that exact time, a void was brewing in this spiral. The juicer saw the incoming destruction and joined, moving downward, allowing the purple pipe to span from the top of the map to the bottom. This brings us to day 3, which marked the final expansion, with the map being doubled once again, this time downward. XQC would continue his void operations, moving all around the map, but at this point, he had become the villain of r/place. He had countless hate threads, and many believed that he was ruining the experience. But I think the opposite. XQC provided a story. He provided a force of destruction that place needed to mold itself. As he continued to wreak havoc, many started to fight back, instantly griefing anything that he tried to build. But the people stopped caring about the juicer when a different threat emerged. The French. When the map doubled for the final time, people were infuriated that there was a stinky little watermark in the corner. So the game had changed. X stopped attacking and started commissioning art pieces like this Widowmaker booty, while everyone else targeted the French. Hassan and the Spanish streamers teamed up to build Hasbullah at the top of the French flag. The French fought back. The Void attacked and the French lost some territory. The juicer returned to throw 2B booty on the flag, only for it to be censored by the admins. Not sure how that wasn't okay, but the Widowmaker one was, and this Among Us character existing was okay, but I digress. After attacks and attacked, the French proved resilient as the new villain of place. I will admit that the artwork they eventually ended with was nice, but France already had 2 decently sized flags of their own, so this third was just excessive. And during all of this, there was another void forming. At the center of the southern expanse, Mr. Incredible was turned into this demon surrounded by eldritch horrors and an ever-growing void. And this culminated in a white hand reaching out with the word "don't" appearing next to it, insinuating something massive. The end. On April 4th, the end drew near. Nobody's quite sure if it was the admins or hackers, but all color options were removed besides white. Immediately, France returned to its natural state. The hand reached out and grew further. Guts and almost any other face had their eyes turn white as the void consumed everything, leaving nothing but a blank white canvas. It was a poetic conclusion. This was an event that couldn't last forever, and thus it was destroyed. Even in death, the French tried to write France, but it was changed to free before they had the chance. But this entire experiment, this art piece, cannot be described in a single image. It is a story. Sure, the final image is a sort of accomplishment and reward for all of the fighting, but I think a lot of the enjoyment of place as a project is seeing the time lapse, and through that, you're able to see a lot of really cool things. Someone made the Minecraft World Generation animation, which turned into a creeper explosion. There were these 2 dogs and one got replaced, leaving the other one crying until it returned. The spiral had a really cool animation. The wine bottle on the French flag was slowly consumed. Watching all of XQC's attacks and the meteor that he made were super cool, along with the different void attacks and the slow progress of different areas. The Among Us zone in the bottom left changed like 40 different times and even got an iFunny watermark. When the map expanded downward, seeing Germa get absolutely jacked and seeing the sheer spread of the French is really cool to see sped up. But my favorite part of all of this is the collaboration and the compromises that were made to let communities coexist. One of my favorite things is the GameStop stock price, which goes up, crosses a bridge, goes through some arches, behind the flag, through another bridge, all the way up to the top, through yet another bridge, before crashing through the moon and becoming a border down the other side of the map. Another cool thing was this road that left from the parking lot, got incorporated into Brazil and Argentina's flags, then went down through a tunnel and took a bridge over to a fountain. These were all just super cool things that were incorporated throughout the entire map. So this is our place. This is the story of one of the biggest internet collaborations ever. 4 million different pixels placed by us. Well, sort of. As I mentioned before, this time around was a little different. The Spanish, the French, Osu, and many others were accused of botting. Part of the reason Canada couldn't fix itself was there were bots griefing it the entire time. And while they may not have all been using bots, many were using Chrome extensions and other tools that showed people exactly where and what color to place. This gave certain communities an unfair advantage advantage and a level of precision completely unmatched by anybody else. But that isn't even the worst offender. The worst was the admins that abused their power. There's footage of this moderator placing without a cooldown. Some of the art was censored and blocked even though far worse things were happening in other parts of the map. It just shows the state of Reddit more than anything else. Admins have all the power and control over the flow of information. They get to choose what content is allowed, and many of them just abuse that privilege. They use that power to block things that they don't like. And there are plenty of other videos talking about that a lot more in depth, so I'll let you open that can of worms on your own time. But this was such a fun and unique experience, and to see it devalued like that is such a shame. But that is the story of r/place, a look at the internet and the communities that make it up. It may not be the greatest place, but it's our place. I get it, because our... Now, there are a lot of smaller events that I've left out because I didn't want the video to get too long. There are some instances of streamers showing up, putting one thing down and dipping, and a lot of smaller battles that you can see in the time lapse that are pretty self-explanatory, so I've left those out. And that's not to mention the emogification of literally everything, which I talked about over on my Shorts channel. But if you want to see more, I will link the official time lapse down below for you to enjoy. But with that being said, I hope to see you in the next one.